Welcome to the Backdoor Fantasy Sports Podcast with Russo and Jordy.
What's up, guys? It is Thursday. We are going to be giving you a little preview of tonight's game, Broncos versus the Saints. This one's been a sort of a tricky one to break down as far as there's some injuries going on. We have a rookie quarterback. Pat Surtain is officially ruled out with a concussion. So we're going to break all that down, but this is our starts of the week episode. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell. If you have any fantasy football questions or any questions about props, DFS props, just hit us up in the comments and we respond to everybody. We already have our fantasy football picks video for Prize Picks and Underdog posted. So if you haven't checked that out yet, that's up. We put that out yesterday. And yeah, if you have any questions, just hit us up. If you guys don't mind, if you appreciate the content, make sure you give us a like. Just helps us grow the channel. We're very excited to be doing this. We have NBA coming soon too. So for our pick show, we cover every NBA slate. We continue with every NFL slate. So yeah, welcome to the show. If you haven't signed up for Underdog yet, let's talk about Underdog just briefly. They're an official partner of ours, and they've been continuing to improve their platform. Their alt lines are awesome. If you use the mobile app, there's alt lines. Again, there's a way on the desktop. I just haven't figured it out yet. But if you use the mobile app, you can for sure just go crazy with the alt lines, which is something I personally love to do. And you can get wild with a multiplier all the way up to 175x, which I love doing. But anyways, it's also Boosttober over at Underdog. So they're dropping boost tokens every single day throughout the month of October. So if you haven't signed up for Underdog yet, use code BACKDOOR. They're going to give you up to $1,000 in bonus cash plus a free pick to help you cash your first slip. So yeah, there's a link in the description. If it asks you for a code, just use code BACKDOOR and they will hook you up with all of the goodies. And we're also partnered with Sleeper. So if you want to try out Sleeper Picks, if you're already on the Sleeper platform and you haven't tried Sleeper Picks yet, you definitely should. It's a lot of fun and it's super practical. You can make some slips while you're setting your lineups. Just use code BACKDOORFS and they're going to give you a 100% deposit match up to $100. And they're running discounts every day too. Just like Underdog plays as low as $1. They've got alt lines on there. They've got insured plays, like flex play type stuff. So, all right. Got the partners covered. So let's talk about tonight's game.
Let's do it. Also, it looks like I just went and looked on there. If you're on the desktop version, it looks like you just click on the player and then all the alt lines are just below. You just have to scroll down a little bit. And,
okay, great.
So you guys keep scrolling down. But
I love playing alt lines. Oh
yeah,
I feel like there's just some gems in there sometimes that are not that much of a long shot, but you can get a crazy multiplier for it.
For sure.
I'm all about it. All right, so yeah, like I said, we have Pat Surtain out. That definitely changes the dynamic of this game a little bit. Let's see. So according to ESPN, they've got the line set for the game total at 37.5. This was at 36.5. I wonder if they bumped it up just slightly after he was officially ruled out. Maybe not, but 37.5. It's not projected to be the highest scoring game. And it's also not that low, but hopefully we end up seeing this turn into somewhat of a high scoring game because that's always more fun. But the Broncos are favored by 3 playing in New Orleans. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Spencer Rattler looked pretty solid in his first start, I thought.
Yeah, definitely. He's got a lot of talent for sure. His throwing form and his mechanics are really clean. Like his drop back and it looks like his throwing form is just really crispy and he looks like a true passing quarterback, which is always fun. So seeing these two young guys go at it, is going to be a lot of fun for sure. I think Rattler, I almost want to pick the Saints with Surtain being out because I feel like the Saints are just going to move the ball a little bit better because Surtain is just that good. And also they've got a lot of young receivers coming up to play in this game, like no Rashid Shaheed, no Chris Olave. So it's going to be interesting to see how, what was the one receiver's name? Like Bubba or Bub something?
Bub Means?
Yeah, Bub Means. Like he looked pretty solid. So I think Bub Means gets involved. I think honestly, like I think your biggest targets on the offensive side of the ball for the Saints are going to be like obviously Alvin Kamara, and I think the tight ends are going to get worked in hard. I think Jawan Johnson and Foster Moreau are going to be big pieces of it. But yeah, we'll see. It's going to be fun. I mean, with the game script, it's kind of thrown off, right? Because this isn't the same Saints team we were watching at the beginning of the year, and it's also going to look a little bit different defensively for the Broncos.
Yeah, and if we talk like specifically like fantasy implications here, I would use a little bit of caution if you're thinking about like starting like Javonte Williams. I would look for another option personally. He hasn't looked good. Now, I could obviously be totally wrong, and he has a great night, but he hasn't looked very good this year. And we talked about it on the Picks show. Sean Payton came out this week and said that he's really looking to get all of the rookies more involved. He thinks that he believes in the talent, but he also just thinks that this is the best way to get them going is they need snaps, they need time on the field and gain that experience. He's not trying to slowly bring these guys along like next year. So he talks specifically about Audric Estime. He likes Estime a lot. So I don't think that he's going to lead the team in carries or anything like that, but I think that could hinder some of Javonte's play time. And then also Devon Villay, he talked specifically about him, wants to get him more involved, and Troy Franklin. So this does seem like he's sort of getting into this zone here where he wants to start getting these guys more reps, working them in more often. So yeah, just keep that in mind if you're thinking about starting Javonte. Alvin Kamara, was dealing with the hand issue a little bit, which sucks because he's an elite pass catcher, but he's totally cleared to play. He's not on the injury report now, so should be fine. Hopefully it was something minor and it doesn't hinder him at all. But yeah.
Yeah, I think a thing that we're all forgetting, I mean, maybe not forgetting, but just kind of glancing over is the fact that this is Sean Payton's first time playing against the Saints. So
revenge game.
Yeah, so
I didn't even think about that.
He said today that it's going to be really emotional, but that he has like a fire in him to go get the win still. So it's like maybe that's a big factor in it, or maybe I don't think it's going to hinder him in any way, obviously, because he's just the coach. His players got to play, but I think you will see him be a little bit more ballsy. I think the play calling is going to be aggressive, and he'll probably come out swinging a little bit more. But yeah,
it's a good point.
Yeah, so
yeah, I didn't even think about that for some reason, but yeah, I mean, I could see it being a little bit emotional because they went on quite the run there. Even though they didn't walk away with a ton of rings, they still went and got a chip, and that run with Drew Brees was pretty awesome. So
yeah,
I could definitely see that. So yeah, I think that kind of covers it. It's just this is a weird one with Shaheed and Olave out.
Absolutely. It's so weird also that it's called the Caesars Superdome now. Like Mercedes-Benz Superdome will never leave my mind.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
Well, and now what is it in Minnesota that Mercedes has that dome?
Is that what it is? They own that one?
I think I could be wrong. I know it's one of those newer buildings.
Okay.
They've got the branding on that.
Okay.
Enjoy sports betting and daily fantasy? Well, Daily Grind is here to help you beat the books. They make premium DFS tools that do all the work for you, comparing lines across just about every platform, looking for discrepancies for you to take advantage of. Start off your research with their DFS Optimizer, a tool that finds all the best plays and rates them with their odds to hit indicator. Or if you'd rather have them make your entire slip for you, they have you covered with their AI slip generator. They'll even notify you when a new slip is available. Go to dgfantasy.com and use code BACKDOOR. They will give you 25% off your first subscription all the way up to a year if you want. That's dgfantasy.com, code BACKDOOR.
All right, so we're going to recap our starts of the week from last week real quick. And if we missed anything on the preview, just, if you have any questions, like I said, drop it in the comments and we'll respond to you as soon as we can. But yeah, as far as we can start with quarterbacks. You want to go one by one, or you want me to just go through mine and you go through yours?
Yeah, one by one works.
Cool. All right. So for quarterbacks, I knew that this game could go one of two ways. I had Kirk Cousins last week, and I thought if Andy Dalton can keep this somewhat close, then I think, the matchup is super juicy. He should be able to get a lot done. But it ended up going the opposite way in the sense that he didn't need to do much because they were just running all over Carolina. Carolina is such a matchup we target now for fantasy. If teams are playing Carolina, it doesn't matter the position. It's looking good. Maybe quarterbacks, if they've got even a halfway decent defense, then Carolina's probably not going to be able to keep up. But yeah, he didn't end up doing much. 19 completions on 30 attempts, 225 yards, 1 touchdown. So he ended up with 12.5 fantasy score, which is not what we want. So that's a bust of a pick on my part for start of the week. So yeah, I started him myself in a couple leagues, and I was just like, man, I'll roll the dice on this because if it's good, it's going to be great. But he ended up not needing to do much. They could not stop the run in that game. So you, on the other hand, had a killer start of the week.
Yeah, it ended up working out, and it actually got me a win in our Backdoor Fantasy Sports League. I was pretty happy with him. Caleb Williams, he's looking, like the truth. He played really well. I took him as the start of the week. I loved the matchup. It was a great situation for him, and he performed really well. 29 attempts for 23 completions, 226 passing yards for 4 touchdowns. He had 1 interception that was kind of a blunder. And he had 4 rush attempts for 56 yards. He ended with 29.64 fantasy points in full PPR. So the dude, absolutely performed at a high level, and he looked really good. The Bears look good. Their defense is solid. They're all locked in, and it looks like they really believe in what they got.
Yeah, man. It's looking better every week. So that being said, let's talk about wide receivers because I picked the only wide receiver who didn't eat in this game. I went with DJ Moore last week. I loved this matchup. I was a little bit nervous about the London game because that tends to be a little bit more run heavy sometimes when they're playing overseas and the time is different for them and whatnot. But so yeah, he did not get much done at all. But I mean, Keenan Allen looked great. But yeah, so DJ Moore was the odd man out. 85% of snaps, 5 targets, 4 receptions, 20 yards, no touchdowns. So he only went for 6 fantasy points. And I played DJ Moore in some leagues. I took him in a lot of DFS. So this one hurt. But yeah, another bust. I got one right this past week. How'd your receiver do?
Not good either. I took Mike Evans, and I did start him, and I did lose this week. It was a really close, like in my dynasty league, it was very, very close. I think I lost by 2 points, so thanks, Mike. But Mike Evans had 6 targets for 2 receptions and 34 yards, and he put up 5.40 fantasy points. I know he did get banged up in this game. But man, it's just looking more and more like Chris Godwin every week. Like the dude is just Chris Godwin, 13 targets for 11 receptions, 125 yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. Dude put up 38 fantasy points. So, yeah, I don't know if I was trying to like muster up some juju for Mike Evans to do better, but he's been playing pretty solid too. He's like their big play guy for sure, but. Yeah, it just wasn't a great week for him. He definitely got banged up too. He was on the bike a lot. We've seen this before with Mike Evans. It's kind of just the risky run with, playing him and having him on your squad is he's going to get banged up every once in a while. He's a big physical dude. He plays physical football. Chris Godwin takes care of himself, which is like the most important thing about his game. He gets down when he has to. He doesn't take unnecessary hits. Mike Evans is running through a brick wall. Like, that's just his play style. He's going to, just be as physical as he can, and that's why he's so great. But didn't pan out for him this week. So, swing and a miss.
Yeah. And I think that this is going to be the type of thing where like there's not going to be a definitive, like every week we know who the guy's going to be. Yeah. And I think there's going to be a lot of weeks where they both have great weeks. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. I think this just happened. It could also be a little bit of him being slightly banged up, but and the game script and whatnot. But obviously Mike Evans is not done being great for fantasy.
No,
it's just one of those weeks.
Yeah.
And I will say on DJ Moore, this didn't feel great. The outcome that I got with him being my start of the week. There was one opportunity though, where he absolutely burned the secondary. It was wide open and Caleb underthrew him. And that was the one pick. So if he would have got that, he would have housed it for a touchdown for sure. But I can't say that like that's the reason, that he didn't have a good outing. That would have changed things a lot, obviously. But just the overall involvement, even without landing that one big play, I would expect a little bit more than 4 receptions for 20 yards. So going to own that one. All right. So I guess we'll go running backs. Bijan Robinson ended up being a solid play. Tyler Algier was a solid play. Like, I loved this. It was just the reason I chose it as my start of the week is because there was, he's been kind of like dealing with this. I believe it was like maybe his hip. He's just been saying he's like he needs some bruises to heal and whatnot. But we've seen lately when he's a little bit questionable, his snaps are somewhat limited. And so I had the confidence that obviously it was a killer matchup. You're not ever benching Bijan anyways, but I just wanted to give the green light on him being a solid start. And he ended up doing well. 15 carries, 95 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 targets, 3 receptions for 10 yards. But he still wasn't totally at 100%. That's why I think once the game was out of reach for the Panthers, they just let Tyler Algier sort of like close things out. But it was really good to see them giving Bijan the red zone looks. So getting into the end zone twice is great. We want to see more of that for sure. But he ended up going for 25.5 fantasy points. So I'll take that all day. And that's I think that's it's in full PPR is what we're looking at here. So how'd your running back do, bro?
So for running back, mine did great. I took Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, it was a solid matchup. You're never going to not start Derrick Henry, but this matchup was just like absolutely bulletproof. I don't know if like you're maybe in a shallower league where you have 3 really good running backs and you're trying to figure out which one to flex or whatever your case may be. I think Derrick Henry's always should be in your starting lineup. But it was a great matchup for him. I think that the start of the week things help a lot of people, whether maybe you're putting a DK or slip together or whatever it may be. Maybe that helps you make a decision in the right direction with our show. But Derrick Henry went crazy. 24 attempts for 132 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, 28.20 fantasy points. Just vintage Derrick Henry performance right there. And really, like I said, small defense, banged up. They were even more hurt last week. So they're even more hurt this week. So if you have a running back that you like going against Washington, this is the week to start them because they're even more banged up now. And they're just really small. Like their tallest cornerback is like 5'10". So they're a pretty small team. So Derrick Henry getting to the second level just sounds like an absolute fever dream. So he went nuts. He did exactly what I thought he would.
All right. Well, we can talk tight ends. My tight end start of the week was Tucker Kraft. Unfortunately, he did not get this done. He had plenty of snaps, 82% of snaps. They were just able, like this game got out of control pretty quickly for the Cardinals. I thought that he was at least going to be able to get in the end zone once, but he ended up going for 2 receptions for 13 yards, no touchdowns. And he's still listed as questionable with this groin injury he was dealing with. He's still able to get in limited practice, but I just thought that he would be able to get a lot more done against the Cardinals in this game. And we had a pretty high over under. I think it was like 50.5 or so. But But yeah, this game pretty much got out of reach for the Cardinals by the half. It was looking like it was going to be close at the half, and then throughout the third quarter, early on, the Cardinals just absolutely blew it. And yeah, they were able to just, I mean, gosh, Dobbs had 2 touchdowns, Jayden Reed had a touchdown, Christian Watson had a touchdown, everyone but Tucker Kraft. So unfortunately, that one did not pan out for me. So
right,
who do you have again? At tight end,
I had Zach Ertz. He did okay. It was definitely not like a bad call, especially for tight ends this year. Tight ends have been. I'm in a throuple right now with Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely, and I don't like it. It's a very abusive relationship we got going. But finding a tight end who's gonna give you a solid performance every week is tough, and I feel like Zach Ertz is one of those who's going to give you a solid performance every week. I don't think he's ever really going to burn you because it's too big of a part of their game plan for a young Jayden Daniels who's playing amazing. Zach Ertz, he had 6 targets for 4 receptions and 68 yards. He had 10.8 fantasy points in full PPR, which is solid. That's, getting 10 points from your tight end right now is a blessing for sure. So solid performance from him. Nothing too crazy. If he would have got a touchdown, it would have been a more than average performance for a tight end right now. It'd been a pretty good performance. So not mad at Zach Ertz at all for what he gave me.
Let's talk about why you should be using Chalkboard, the daily fantasy platform that runs specials every day of the week. Build plays for as low as $1 and enjoy the wide variety of alt lines. The higher the line, the higher the payout. It's that simple. Once you've made your picks, you can go whole hog with their max cash option or insure yourself with their shield play option. Download Chalkboard on your Apple or Android device and use code BACKDOOR for a 100% deposit match.
All right. Well, let's get into this week's start of the weeks. I'll start us off with quarterbacks. My quarterback start of the week is going to be Baker Mayfield, and dude has been awesome this year for fantasy. And I like this to continue. We've got 2 games on Monday night this week. Two games this week on Monday, and one of them is going to be absolutely fire. We've got the Baltimore Ravens at Tampa Bay. Oof. Like, please, like this is I couldn't ask for a better game in prime time.
No doubt.
So I like Baker to get this done. This is a pass funnel defense that it tends to be in. I mean, like when they're facing any competent team, there's a ton of points scored in these games lately with the Ravens, kind of like the Detroit Lions. And so I love this. He's got a soft matchup for passing yards allowed, 31st in pass yards allowed. Last week, he went for 325 yards against the Saints, 29 rushing yards. That might be a little bit more difficult, but Baker's proving to be like pretty shifty when he takes off and he starts to run the ball, even in difficult matchups.
I've said it a million times, but when he's running, in his mind, he thinks he's running at 4.3 speed. Like, you look at his face and his eyes are huge and he's juking everyone out. I'm like, this dude thinks he's the fastest guy on the field, and I love it.
Bro, yeah, how can you not love Baker Mayfield right now? Like, he brings the personality, he brings the grit. I mean, his belief in himself and his team, like, the glue that he is to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers cannot be understated. Just bringing so much personality to this offense. He's clearly the leader of this team, and when he takes off running, it's hilarious because like he's very effective with it. Not like he's going, Lamar Jackson, Jayden Daniels type.
In his mind,
numbers. Yeah, but it's just hilarious because the dude runs with swag when he's doing it. And anytime he breaks off a run more than like 10 yards, dude just gets up and looks so sassy.
Dude, like, and he's looking for ankles. He's wanting your ankles. Like, he's always sticking his foot in the ground and doing like a hard cut. Even if he loses a yard, as long as he makes someone trip, he's like, in his mind, just swagged out of his mind.
Dude, absolutely. And this is becoming like just one of the best parts about this season so far is Baker Mayfield. Just overall entertainment wise, because he's just hilarious. Like, and the fact that he's playing with that swag, but he's also just a hilarious dude. He's also like putting up these performances that make the comedic part about it so much funnier when he's going for like 4 TDs and a rushing TD and stuff like that.
He's the opposite of Will Levis. Will Levis is comedic on like a just being completely horrible at like level. But Baker's the opposite. He's hilarious on like how good he is with his confidence level. It's hilarious.
Yeah, man. And speaking of Baker, like we went pretty hard on Deshaun Watson. But think about the fact that they let Baker walk. There's no way they were going to offer Baker $230 million fully guaranteed. Like they let Baker walk. They could have had him for cheaper. They could have kept all their picks. Like they gave up a total of like 6 picks, including 3 first rounders, while Deshaun Watson was under investigation for all of this misconduct. And then you bring him in and then you give him, it's like, oh, what do you want? 230 million fully guaranteed? Yeah, sure. It's like, then you let Joe Flacco go. Like we've talked about it. We don't need to go over all that again, but I love seeing Baker killing it right now. And it's just like, yeah, Brown's like, you could have had this dude. Cause it's not like he looked bad when he was with the Browns.
No,
he was having some big games with them too.
The thing that haunts me is thinking about Will Anderson and Myles Garrett together. How crazy would that have been? Like, but anyway, I'll let you get back to your quarterback start of the week. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just wanted to
no, when we start talking Deshaun, we can drift off real quick. All right. So yeah, Baker had 4 TDs last week. He's got a solid matchup here. 27th in passing touchdowns allowed by the Ravens. So juicy for passing, juicy for touchdowns. And this is going to be a high scoring game. Let's just take a look at this over under real quick. It's got to be high. Yep. 49.5 point over under. Baltimore favored by 3.5. I cannot wait for this game. So yeah, Baker is going to be my quarterback start of the week. I'll pass it over to you now.
Awesome. Yeah. So excuse me, I about choked on my own spit there. But Jayden Daniels is going to be my start of the week. Loving the matchup we got going here for the kid. I mean, he's just been absolutely stellar. 51.5 over under. Commanders favored by 8. I think he's just going to have a ginormous performance in this game. The dude has just been unbelievable. I mean, through the last 6 games, he has not gone under 170 passing and rushing yards combined. Last week against Baltimore, he only ran for 22 yards and went for 269 in the air. Dude has just been unbelievable. And going into a performance where the Panthers are 23rd in passing yards allowed and 30th in rushing yards allowed to quarterbacks, I think this is a smash start week for Jayden Daniels. I think I'm going to be hearing from my brother a lot this week. See how good Jayden Daniels is against the Carolina Panthers. Yes, I did. So it's going to be a good week for him. I think this matchup is just, really, really good for him. Bijan Robinson should be back, which only helps him further. It's not like a boomer bust type of thing for him, but I do think that there was a risk of what's his name? Noah Brown maybe missing. He's still dealing with a groin injury, but nothing too crazy. But on the other side of the ball, you do have J.C. Horn, who's banged up, which if J.C. Horn is out, my God, they're going to get lit up. And, Caleb Williams went right at J.C. Horn last week. Every play, he was just throwing right at him. He said he wanted to make it a point that he wasn't shying away from J.C. Horn, and he wanted to break his confidence, is what he said. So shout out to Caleb Williams for coming out. The kid says a lot of crazy things, for sure. But, dude paints his nails and he's throwing dimes. So what can you say about him?
You can back it up and keep talking.
He did also say that if you like his nails, or if you like to talk about his nails, your girl likes to talk about him more. So the dude is just coming out firing. Yeah, so I don't know. Caleb Williams is definitely on something. But Jayden Daniels has been a humble warrior, and the dude has absolutely been lighting everyone up. So like Jayden Daniels this week for sure. I'm hoping he'll give us, 30s, maybe high 29s, higher than that fantasy points wise. I think he'll go crazy.
I love it. Yeah. And I was just sitting here thinking like, man, I think that first of all, Carolina Panthers cannot stop this offense.
No,
Like,
God,
this
no.
is going to be
Yeah.
an absolute clinic.
Yeah.
And it could be, similar situation in the sense of Kirk Cousins. They just didn't need to pass the ball much in the second half.
Yeah.
But the difference is Kirk Cousins can't put up 100 rushing yards, which is what I think Jayden Daniels can do in this game. The RPO is going to just be absolutely nasty on this just absolutely bottom of the barrel Carolina Panthers. And I live in North Carolina, so I'm not trying to hate too hard on the Panthers, but you know what? It doesn't look good. And I'm a Cardinals fan anyways, but but yeah, man, I love that pick. And I'm sitting here like, dude, we could see Jayden Daniels go, if he wants to, he's got 100 yards rushing in this game. It's just up to him, like if he decides to do it or not, but he can if he feels like it. Like, absolutely,
he's my favorite to win the MVP right now. I think the dude is just that good.
So,
like, I don't think we've seen a talent like this since Lamar, coming out of a draft where it's like dual threat. But I think by far, I think he's a better passer than Lamar. I really do. Lamar is a great passer. Too. I don't think Lamar is a bad passer. I've never been one of those people who's like, Lamar can't throw the ball. That's ridiculous. Yeah. Lamar is a great passer, but I think Jayden Daniels is that good, and he hasn't had his coming to earth moment yet. Everyone's like, oh, it's going to happen eventually. When? It didn't happen against the Ravens. It hasn't happened against any one of these top defenses yet, so we'll see. Maybe Kansas City gets his number. I don't know, but the dude's been bulletproof so far. So
he has, and I'm starting to think we're just looking at his floor right now. Like, talk about his coming to earth moment. It's like we might not have seen his ceiling yet. We probably haven't. Like this dude could end up having like a 45-point fantasy game before, maybe even push 50 points for fantasy.
Well, because you look at what Justin Fields was doing with the Bears when he was having those monster performances. It's like Jayden Daniels can do that. Absolutely he can. He just is not running the ball 14, 15 times a game.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw the clip from Hard Knocks where they were talking about how the GM for the Giants' son.
Yeah, I did see that. That's embarrassing.
Like, dude, his son is just laying on the couch, and his dad's just basically doing this for Hard Knocks to have a little moment. He's like, who do you think I should pick? Who do you think? And his son's just like sitting there going like, Jayden Daniels. He's like, what and his dad's just like, okay. But all right,
listen to Papa or your son, I guess.
Yeah, Papa should have listened to you.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so let's jump into wide receivers because my wide receiver start of the week is going to be Chris Godwin that stacks with Baker Mayfield. We already talked about this over under 49.5 point over under. Baltimore favored by 3.5. But just like Baker has that soft matchup for passing, Chris Godwin has a great matchup for receiving. Obviously, makes sense, right? 29th in receiving yards allowed to wide receivers, coming off a game where he went for 125 against the New Orleans Saints. He's been getting a lot more involved, and we've got what did you say with Mike Evans is going on? Is he has a chance to miss, or is he just questionable right now?
He's questionable. He didn't practice today with a leg injury, so maybe it's that same hamstring tightness. So maybe they're just resting him, and we'll see him practice later on. But it's kind of hard to tell right now. It's a little early for them because they play on Monday, so they have a long week.
But so this could end up being a little bit tricky. Like with Godwin, I hope Mike Evans does play because I don't want them just honing in on stopping Godwin. But I love this game plan here with the line being so high, and it's just going to be another shootout. So coming off last week with 13 targets and then converting that into 125 yards, I like his odds of having a great week. And then for touchdowns, just like they were last for passing touchdowns, that makes sense. They're last in the league for receiving touchdowns. So wide receivers just eat against this defense. If your team is competent, obviously if your team is like bottom of the barrel, you can't keep up. If you're the Cowboys, you're not gonna be able to keep up. You know what I'm saying, Jordy?
Yeah. Yeah, you know what?
Just kidding.
I seen a piece of burnt toast in my kitchen earlier today. I'm like, hey, look, it's Trayvon Diggs. Like, I don't know what all the hype about Trayvon Diggs is, but Jameson Williams did whatever the hell he wanted to him, and even had him saying on the sideline, I can't keep up. Why are you starting then? Jameson Williams is burning you every play. I couldn't take it anymore, man. I wanted to bleach my eyes.
Yeah, that was rough. And To be fair, when they played the Ravens were just running all over them, and it looked like this was an absolute stomping. And how did they get back into the game? They just passed it a ton.
Yeah.
So that shows you how this matchup is. So I think Baker and Godwin are going to be able to keep up in this game. I think Godwin has to have a good game for them to do that. So I love him for a start of the week at wide receiver. All right, who you got at wide receiver?
I've got Terry McLaurin. I'm going to pair that with my Jayden Daniels play here. I'm kind of honestly hoping that Bijan Robinson doesn't play, because it will help us further, because if the run game doesn't look as strong without Bijan Robinson.
No,
even against the Ravens, it looked like they were missing that power back, because, Austin Eckler and McNichols are not big. They're not like Bijan Robinson. Austin Eckler can make do, right? But he's old, and it's just not looking the same for him right now. So
yeah,
for this play, for the Washington's sake, I hope that he does play. But I do, think this is a great matchup for Terry McLaurin. He was rested today, limited practice, but they said it was just specifically a rest. There's nothing wrong with him. They just want to give him some time to kind of let his body relax. So they said he was just like in and out of ice baths all day, and they were just resting him. So, but he was at practice. He just was limited. So nothing really too concerning with him. But the dude has been just dominating the target share. Absolutely loving what I'm seeing from him. Playing 80 to 90% of the snaps. He's right in between the 85 and 90 range. 7 targets in the last game for 6 receptions. For 2 touchdowns. We all know that Baltimore is a pass funnel, so you're not going to get a ton of yards on them. But in the red zone, I don't know if Terry McLaurin might be top 5 red zone threats right now when it comes to just his ability to catch the ball in the back of the end zone and these crazy bending athletic catches. Like, the dude has got so much control over his body, and we've seen it before. We've seen him in the past. There was that crazy highlight where he jumped up in the air backwards and grabbed the ball, and we've seen him, be the catch of the year candidate like multiple times. So the dude is very insane with his hands. He's really good. So I do like him in this game to be my start of the week. I think, against Carolina, if we look at what we got going on here, like I said, they're 30th in passing yards allowed, 17th in yards allowed to wide receivers. So a lot of some of those yards are coming from running backs as well, but they're giving up 146 receiving yards a game. So for Terry McLaurin, I could see this being one of those big games where he goes for, the 80 to 100 receiving yards and a touchdown, maybe 2 if we're lucky. But I think he definitely gets in the red zone once with just how good he's been playing. And, they're giving him that extra level of respect now, where they're giving him these rest days and they're letting him just be that veteran receiver now, where he's kind of stepped into that next level. When it comes to target share, he's got 43 targets on the year. The closest person to him is Zach Ertz, 29. That's why I like Zach Ertz so much this year, is he's just getting the target share. And then there's this Olamide Zacchaeus. Is that how you say his name?
I think so.
He's playing good too, but he's only got 21 targets on the year. He's the closest one to him. Noah Brown, 18. So, I think Terry McLaurin is in that wide receiver 1 category, obviously, where it's just like he's dominating the snap share, dominating the field, and he's playing great. So for me, he's my start of the week. We've seen people just absolutely been torching this Carolina Panthers defense too. I mean, Roma Dunze only had 2 catches, but each catch he had went for 20 yards. Everyone kind of feasted when it came to them. Keenan Allen just went for 2 touchdowns and 5 receptions on him. So, if they are lacking JC Horn, like I was saying too, I don't think it'll really make a difference, but if they are, it just helps. So he'll definitely be on McLaurin. So it's going to be a fun matchup, but he's my start of the week this week to make things short.
Yeah, man, 51.5 over under.
Yeah.
Washington favored by 8.5. So they're expecting the Panthers to get a little bit done in this, maybe like 20 points ish. But yeah, I love that. This is going to be a fun game for a lot of DFS. That's for sure.
I wouldn't sleep on the Panthers though in this game, because Andy Dalton, this is a type of defense. It's a great matchup for Andy Dalton too.
Yeah.
He could go out there and absolutely light them up. You just never know. Deontay Johnson's questionable, which really sucks. He was going to be my start of the week, but it's looking like he might not play. So I'm kind of in the dumpster right now, because I got to find a receiver, because I'm going to have to, just start a random flex. But if Deontay Johnson plays, this is going to be a very, very interesting game. But
Absolutely. Yeah. I think they'll be able to like keep up a little bit. They've got to get something going, and this is the type of defense that can help them bounce back a little bit.
right.
All right, so running back start of the week, I'm going to be going with J.K. Dobbins, playing against my Arizona Cardinals in Arizona. He has just looked amazing so far, getting all of the work. He's clearly the RB1, and it's so good. It's so good to see. Like we've talked about before, this dude's playing on a $50,000 contract. Dude busted up both of his legs. A lot of people thought his career was over. I was really late to the party on drafting him in fantasy drafts. Like 2 weeks before the season started, I started to believe the narrative, and I'm like, what if he is okay? He's easily the best running back on that team, and he has absolutely exceeded expectations. Just went for 96 yards against Denver, and has been getting all of the opportunities. I mean, like some of these games, he hasn't needed to do as much, but averaging 16.2 rush attempts per game. Now, that is stacked a little bit higher because he's coming off that game against Denver where he had 25 rush attempts. But this matchup is juicy, 31st in rushing yards allowed, specifically to running backs. I like his odds of being able to put up a great day for fantasy. And then the Cardinals are also 20th in touchdowns allowed to running backs. So I think he's going to be a huge part of the game plan, like he is every week. This is like a really run heavy team, and yeah, I like him to get this done. All right, who you got?
All right, so I'm gonna say Tank Bigsby. If Travis Etienne is out, I really like Tank Bigsby in this game, but really only if Etienne is out. I know this is kind of, a weird thing to do with like saying two different guys, but if Etienne is in, I really like Trey Sermon, and I'll kind of go over why I like both of these guys. But Tank Bigsby, I think he's got the floor. I mean, they were saying last week he was still dealing with a little bit of hamstring tightness, but this week he's been practicing. He's completely cleared. So hopefully Etienne is out and Tank Bigsby just goes crazy. This is kind of one of those plays where it's not like so obvious. It's getting there, right? Like Tank Bigsby is really starting to make a name for himself now, rather than just the guy that was sitting in my taxi squad all year. But like he's really starting to arrive. And I think in this game against a soft defense, if we look at it here, the matchup, I had it pulled up. I think sorry, I lost where I had this here.
It's all good.
Okay, here we go. So the matchup, the New England Patriots are 23rd in rushing yards allowed. So he's got a great floor if he can, get on the floor here. And if I think even if Etienne is in, I think Tank Bigsby is starting to become a flex-worthy option. Now, it was a little weird last week because he was dealing with the injury. So we saw, was it Dearness Johnson earn a couple snaps into the game, and he actually out-snapped Tank, but Tank was on the bike a lot and dealing with some hamstring tightness. So this week he's looking good, it seems, in practice. He's practicing, he's doing just fine. So that is going to be someone I'm going to even, I'll absolutely start him. If Etienne is out in this game, it's going to be a smash start for me. But if he is in, I do like Trey Sermon. I know that Tyler Goodson did have a great performance, but Trey Sermon did still out-snap him. But Trey Sermon, they said he returned to practice today, so he is looking like he's trending in the direction of playing. Jonathan Taylor is looking like he's going to be remained on the sideline for one more week probably. He's still dealing with that high ankle sprain, so we'll just see how that looks. But going into this matchup, Miami is 31st in touchdowns allowed to running backs, so Trey Sermon is looking really enticing to me. This is probably a guy you could have picked up on the wire as soon as JT went down. I don't know if you could pick him up anymore. He might be out there for a lot of people, but I think when
it might be after last week because I mean, that, 60% of snaps, 18 carries for 29 yards. That is a lot of people dropped him.
Yeah, and Tennessee, they played a lot better than people thought. Like their defense is not.
Their defense is tough.
Yeah, their running defense is not horrible, and Miami's is. So that's one of the reasons I really do like this matchup for Sermon, is he is the big guy. Tyler Goodson, I think, is going to be involved. Obviously, he's going to be a lot of their down the field work, but when I think it comes to vulturing touchdowns and getting that work, I think Trey Sermon is their guy. He's just bigger. He's more physical when it comes to that. Tyler Goodson looked really good. So this is
he did.
It's it's a week for me where I am fully leaning on Tank Bigsby as long as ETN is out, but Trey Sermon's like a solid backup for me, I guess, if you want to do that. But Tank Bigsby is going to be my start of the week for sure.
All right. Well, I'm going to push back just a little bit on Trey Sermon because I've got both Tyler Goodson and Trey Sermon, and I'm leaning towards, if I had to choose, I'm leaning towards Tyler Goodson. I could be totally wrong about this because you made a great case there of him, still getting 18 carries. So if he's getting 18 carries, if they don't switch that up and he's getting 18 carries versus Miami, that's going to be a juicy day.
Yep.
But I think that at the very least, Tyler Goodson, if JT is for sure out, which we're almost positive he's going to be out one more week, but if we don't have any surprises where JT is playing, I like Tyler Goodson as a solid flex too, because 8 carries, 51 yards, averaged 6.3 on the ground, and then had 5 targets, 4 receptions, 14 yards. But 4 receptions, when you're just talking for fantasy, it's not like he had a huge fantasy game, but if it's full PPR, these pass catching backs are pretty solid. So yeah, still just played 39% of snaps. Hasn't really had any sort of breakout, but he does look good in his opportunities. Very explosive. The first week that he got a decent amount of snaps against Jacksonville, 41% of snaps, 5 carries for 26 yards, so average 5.2, and then against Tennessee, average 6.3. In that week against Jacksonville, he had 3 targets for 3 receptions, and then 5 targets for 4 receptions last week against Tennessee. So I like him as a flex, but I think you might be right. I think if JT's out, Trey Sermon is the guy to start this week. The more I think about it, but it's just tricky because it's just all about, are they still committed to giving him the majority of snaps? Yeah. If it's a 50-50 share, I think they both eat this week. But yeah, it could be that it's like, no, we're not just demoting Trey Sermon because of the 1 week,
Yeah. I could have picked like a Derrick Henry again, but I just wanted to, I really feel like these guys could be the sneaky plays where it's like they're probably out on your wire. If you're in a redraft league, they might be. If you're in a competitive league, probably not. But these guys are people who could put up a random 20-point, performance for you. Tank Bigsby is absolutely that guy. If he gets the green light, not sure why Jacksonville, I know he's been a little bit hurt, but I don't know why Jacksonville isn't just like, okay, you know what, we're going to feed this guy one game and just see what he can do.
He's got to be a little bit more beat up than we realized because the talent, he looks so electric that there has to be something that probably I don't think is detrimental, but there has to be some reason that they don't want to risk further injury. Yeah. And maybe they're just waiting for him to be 100%. But I think when he's fully 100%, he's taking over this backfield. Yeah. If they're smart.
I agree. And we look at hamstring tightness and we're like, oh my God, dude, just play. But their hamstring tightness and ours waking up in the morning is a lot different. These guys' hamstrings are probably purple from being hit so many times, they're dealing with tissue injury. So it's like their tightness is not us waking up with a lack of water in our body and locking up in the middle of the night. Theirs is their bodies are destroyed.
Yeah, and when we have sore hamstrings, we're not getting up and going and running at 20 miles an hour. So I totally get it. And about the idea of Trey Sermon potentially being on waiver wires, I think he could be because I have him in Dynasty. I kept him okay, I might start Tyler Goodson this week. But you made a really compelling case to stick with Trey Sermon here. And I'll be honest, in a redraft league, I dropped Trey Sermon this week. So if I'm being that careless, there's probably other people out there who dropped him too. So that could be someone who you could just grab off the wire and start if you're in a pinch.
Yep.
He's definitely worth, if you're in a situation where you need someone in a hurry.
Absolutely.
It's definitely worth taking a look at. Yeah, and in the league that I dropped him, I also picked up Sean Tucker. So I was more so like a long play because I know JT's going to be coming back soon, and I just want to see what happens with Sean Tucker and I just want to celebrate for a minute because I got him.
I didn't have enough fab. I could only pay $61 for him. It wasn't enough.
I went and dropped a bag on Sean Tucker, man, and like we talked about him in the waiver show, and the league that I dropped the bag on, I put 101 fab down. Now that's a dynasty league, so I think he's absolutely worth that long term. He's only 22 years old, but he played 38% of snaps and went for 189 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he did it on the ground and through the air. He looked amazing, and so I'm not saying he's going to take over Bucky Irving. I do think he could, like, if they start being honest with themselves, Rachaad White's probably the RB3 on that team.
Rachaad White definitely sees free agency by the end of his contract, I
think so too, because there's no reason when they've got these rookies looking this good to lock in Rachaad White. But Sean Tucker, we don't want to overreact. And I saw some, I posted about it when I landed him because there were multiple bids. Jordy dumped the rest of his fab at 61. There were 2 different bids at 73, and I just wanted to make sure I got him. So I was like, okay, I got 100. I had like 146 fab left, and it's dynasty, so we have deep benches. And I was like, okay, I've got everything pretty covered, but I really want this prospect long term because you can't just ignore that performance. He was the RB1 on the week with 38% of snaps. So I'm like, I'm gonna go get this guy. And I was stoked that I got him, but I did get a little bit of pushback on X when I was celebrating. Someone was saying like it's a trap. He looked terrible his rookie year, but I'm like, did you watch Rachaad White his rookie year? Have you watched Rachaad White like as a starter? Like, yeah, elite pass catcher, but he doesn't look like an every down back. He's not a good runner.
No, him and Najee Harris are in the same category for me. Najee Harris a little bit less. I know he just had a big game, but he should on 20 carries, right? It's like you look at these guys who are getting all this volume, and it's like they're getting 50 yards on like 20 carries. It's like, that's not a good performance, guys. I know he gave you 14 fantasy points. He should on that many carries. It's like we were seeing it with Zamir White, where it was like, this guy's getting 14, 16 carries and he's not doing anything with them, so a lot of these guys are just volume guys, and it's like, you look at Najee Harris's rookie year. I know I always beat up on Najee Harris, but it's just a good point.
He deserves it.
Yeah, I mean, you look at I just want to pull this up. So you look at his rookie year that everyone talked about, right? 307 carries for 1,100 yards. He averaged 3.5 yards a carry with only 7 touchdowns. Is that a good year? Would anyone, if you
had 180 carries, that's not bad.
Yeah, if you put Christian McCaffrey in that offense and gave him 307 carries, do you think he would only mustered up 1,100 yards? No. That's rough. There's just a difference in play, right? It's not bad. You like him if he's on your fantasy team. I traded Najee Harris that year because I saw the writing on the wall. I didn't think he was going to keep getting all that volume, so I looked like an idiot for trading him because I think he ended up being like the RB3 or something on that year. But it was like, I kind of knew that I was like, I didn't like him already. And I'm looking at a rookie Jaylen Warren at the same time who was just dealing with fumbling issues, but looked way better. And I still believe Jaylen Warren is the better running back. I just think, he's got the injury bug this year, like a lot of players. So, that's just, got way off topic there. But
no, we're still talking running back. So, and as far as Rachaad White goes, like, it is a similar situation. He's not doing a lot with his carries, and it doesn't seem to be getting any better. I don't know if that's something that we can fix, but this has been the same story for Rachaad White. But the reason why he's so valuable for fantasy is he is like one of the best pass catchers in the league for running backs.
Absolutely.
And so, like, do the Buccaneers desperately need a pass catcher coming out of the backfield? Like, I don't know that they do right now with the way Baker's moving the ball through the air. So in my opinion, Sean Tucker showed that he can catch the ball. He can do a lot with yards after the catch. And so, anyways, I just needed to like celebrate a little bit because I got him.
Well, and the point I was trying to make there too is like, okay, last year Rachaad White, he's another one, 272 attempts for 990 yards. So that was, averaged 3.2 yards per carry, and he only had 6 touchdowns. This year, 51 attempts, 187 yards, 3.5 yards a carry, no touchdowns, 17 receptions. But yeah, I don't know.
And to be fair, like obviously your average yard per carry is going to come down naturally a little bit when you've got an insane amount of carries,
for sure,
but it shouldn't come down that much. You need to average more than 3 yards a carry, like to be considered like an elite running back. So anyways, I love the prospect. And again, since it's dynasty, if Sean Tucker was like 28 years old, I wouldn't be bothering. But at just 22 years old, I saw what he can do. Even if it's just one game, I got to see where this goes. So I'm happy I got him.
I just want to make one more point. You say that, but last year, Christian McCaffrey, 272 attempts, same amount of attempts, 1,459 yards, 5.4 yards per carry, 14 touchdowns with 67 receptions. Like when you're talking about that amount of usage, that's what you want to see out of a guy who's getting that much usage.
Yeah, so absolutely. Like
that's
Derrick
enough
Henry,
on running backs for me.
Yeah,
checking
you're
out.
never going to see Derrick Henry averaging 3 yards a carry. Yeah, for sure. I completely agree. All right, let's do tight ends and we'll get out of here.
All right.
All right. So my tight end start of the week is a little bit risky because he's got Deshaun Watson throwing him the ball. But I'm going to be going with David Njoku. And I just like this narrative, honestly. He is by far the best athlete they have left. Hopefully Nick Chubb comes back because Nick Chubb, I'd love to see him make a solid return and be 100%. And then he'd probably be the best athlete that they have. But Amari Cooper is gone. He is celebrating. He is partying nonstop, getting out of that situation and going to the Bills. But yeah, we've got no more, we got no more Amari Cooper. I think David Njoku, like these other receivers can sort of fill that role. Why am I blanking on his name? Who's the wide receiver that went? Tim Patrick, right? Didn't he? Or is that no? Who went to the Browns from the Broncos last year? It's not Tim Patrick. He went to the Lions. Jerry Jeudy. I think Jerry Jeudy will emerge as the wide receiver one here.
I just keep thinking back to what Steve Smith said. He calls him a jag, just a guy, and you can't even remember his name. So that's shows you.
There you go.
He's just a guy.
But I think that he's shown some flashes, so he will be the de facto wide receiver one. But David Njoku, if they want to be close in this game and compete at all, like I think David Njoku is going to have to get peppered with targets. He's dealt with a little bit of injury, but it seems like he's good to go now. And the matchup is not too bad. I just really like this as somewhat of a sneaky play at tight end because we know how good he is. And now he's got some vacated targets with Amari Cooper, who is actually getting a decent amount of targets each week. They just weren't converting into much. But if they, week one without Amari Cooper, this might be like, hey, we haven't like transitioned to our new offense well enough yet. So I'm going to just, maybe some of the like, emergency, like I don't know what to do in this situation, like pull the ripcord type of thing is just going to be like, okay, I'm just going to get it out. If he's going through his reads and he's not liking what he's seeing, like just get it to the tight end. So Njoku has a pretty solid matchup, 19th in receiving yards allowed to tight ends. Let me take a look here at this over under. Let's see, Bengals and Browns. It's probably, it could be pretty high. The Bengals, 41.5. Yeah, I wasn't expecting it to be too high. Bengals favored by 5.5. The Bengals had a tough time against the Giants last week. And I think that this Giants defense is better than we've given them credit for. And we're starting to see the improvement and we're starting to see the like materializing of these new weapons that they went and got in the offseason. And I think the Giants actually are kind of looking a little bit better each week. But they kept, they kept them pretty locked up last week. So that's why I don't think we see a higher over under here. But I do like the matchup here, and I do think that David Njoku is just going to have to be heavily targeted in this game for them to be able to get much done. So pretty simple narrative for this one. So I'm going to be going with David Njoku as my tight end start of the week.
Awesome.
Who you got?
Yeah, I love it. Njoku, that dude is, every time I see his build, I'm like, that guy is such a freak athlete. Like, he's so massive for that.
He is.
He's just so athletic.
Super athletic.
Yeah.
Yep.
But for my start of the week, I've got Kyle Pitts. This is a guy whose name I don't even like to speak in my household because he's burned me so many times. But I'm going with him this week because he has been showing flashes of like, okay, you can see the potential with him for sure. I mean, the guy's, another freak athlete. He's a huge dude, super athletic, not really a big frame. He's more of like a wide receiver frame. But yeah, I mean, I absolutely love this matchup for him. The Seattle Seahawks have really struggled against tight ends. 23rd in receptions allowed to tight ends, 17th in touchdowns allowed to tight ends, and they are 29th in receiving yards allowed to tight ends. So the matchup is bulletproof for Kyle Pitts. He should be able to go in there and just kind of have his way. Seattle Seahawks, their cornerbacks are not very big, and their linebackers are kind of like medium sized as well. So not really like a crazy stylistic matchup for Kyle Pitts here. He should be able to kind of do what he wants. Last week we saw Theo Johnson, who's really been kind of struggling to find his hole in the offense with the Giants. He did really well against them too. He had 5 receptions for 48 yards. He had a potential touchdown catch that wasn't quite there, but it just needed Daniel Jones to throw him a better ball. So he could have had a big performance. The week before that, Sam Laporta and Brock Wright absolutely ate it up against this defense. Laporta had 4 catches for 53 yards. Brock Wright 3 catches for 19 yards. So they both were just, kind of getting their whatever they wanted there. But they were just down so far that they didn't, or they were up so much they didn't really have to throw the ball too much. It was just all run game. But I think in this game it's going to be a lot more competitive because I don't think Seattle and Atlanta, either of them really have the potential to blow each other out in this game. I think it's going to be a pretty close game. If we look at the over-under on this game, it is a 51 over-under with a 3-point favorite to the Falcons. I think that's pretty fair. I think the Falcons will win this game. I think it's going to be close, though. So, yeah, Kyle Pitts, I mean, he's been doing a lot better the last couple of weeks. The last 2 games, he's involved in 60% of the passing plays, which is pretty solid for a tight end. You're not just blocking at that point, you're actually going out for passes. So, he's 4th in target share now. He's slowly climbing up the target share rankings. And, you look at the game he played against Tampa Bay. He had, let's see what he had. He had 8 targets for 7 receptions against Tampa Bay there. And then last week against Carolina, 5 targets for 3 receptions for 70 yards. In that Tampa Bay game, he went for 88 yards. So, and he's actually kind of getting in the end zone now. They're using him more and more in red zone looks. He had a touchdown. Actually, never mind. He only had a touchdown that very first week. So, if he does start getting in the end zone, though, that's the problem with Kyle Pitts. If he can find his way in the end zone, he starts, not just being like a boom or bust play every week, and he starts giving you these touchdowns, the dude's going to be super valuable. And that's the frustrating thing about being a Pitts owner is like, he's just not giving you the work you want. But with Kirk Cousins being there, he has been more involved in the passing game. So in this soft matchup against Seattle, if he can't get it done here, he probably ain't going to give you much for the rest of the year, in my opinion, because this is a really solid matchup for him. So for me, he's my sketchy start of the week.
All right. And then one more note on Njoku that I forgot to mention is when he missed those games, like his lack of involvement was obviously he missed 3 games. And then his first game back, he only played 42% of snaps against Washington. He was still dealing with a little bit of an ankle issue, but he's good to go now. He's not on the injury report. He got in a full practice yesterday. He should be just locked and loaded. His first game back against Philly, he had 74% of snaps. We saw that jump right back up, 7 targets, 5 receptions. So I think that this is an opportunity for him to have another Njoku, the Njoku that we love type of week. So I think he's got a solid floor this week. But that's going to cover everything for the starts of the week. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe and drop us a comment if you have any questions. If you enjoy our show, give us a like. It goes a long way. We really appreciate you guys. And enjoy the game tonight. We'll catch you in the next video.
Good luck, guys.
Thanks for watching this episode of the Backdoor Fantasy Sports Podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop us a comment. You can also find us on all platforms at BackdoorFS.